Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports podcast. That's just Oklahoma sports. We're going to talk a lot of Oklahoma Sooners on here. We're going to talk a lot of OKC Thunder on this podcast when you're hanging out with us. And so we hope you will come along for the ride. That is if you like Just Okay podcasts as well, because there's nothing great about this thing, but it is free. And we're not journalists, we're just fans trying to give you our opinion. No paywalls, no subscriptions that you can't cancel later on, stuff like that. And I am here with my brother, Jared, aka J Rod. And again, a happy birthday to you, belated, my brother.
Yeah. It's I'm 21 this year. It's pretty crazy. So when I'm party, yeah, no, it's funny. I went so my birthday was Tuesday. Wednesday I went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal.
Nice.
If anybody ever like is in Orlando, I think it starts in like September now and goes all the way to like I think the first week in November. I think it ends like next week or something. Maybe it's this weekend. Um Dude, honestly, go. It's incredible. I had a lot of fun. We went through a bunch of the haunted houses. Um, they got to ride a couple of roller coasters. It was just a blast. And there's just so much like and they have people roam in the park. Like the whole atmosphere is just awesome. Like even if you're not a huge Halloween fan, it's just so much fun. Um, and it's like very like I always tell people, I'm like, if you ever come to Orlando, it's like Disney is great for if you have a family and you have kids and everything, and Universal is good for that. But like the Halloween Horror Nights, when you buy the tickets, it says on there like this is not recommended for children under
Children.
13 or whatever. Which I saw people when they're running around there with kids and stuff. But it's like we were like talking about it, and it's like because people were like, oh, haunted house. Like I've been to haunted house. I'm like, you haven't been to haunted houses where like it's movie level like makeup and movie
Yeah.
level like where like we were like in
Special
one and
effects stuff and everything. Yeah.
there was like one where it was like vampires and like you could see blood like dripping off the vampire and it looked like it wasn't just like
Yeah.
like crappy food dye like you're like you saw it and of course it's dark and there's lights flashing and stuff but it looks more realistic so anyway a lot of fun but I'm yeah so I did that honestly like one of the best weeks I've had in a long time so yeah it was a good birthday it was a good birthday but I also realized after Halloween Horror Nights after walking I think my phone said I walked like 22,000 or 24,000 steps.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm cooked, dude. I'm cooked. After doing that from like and basically all those steps were from 6 p.m. until like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whatever time it was. I was
Hmm.
like, bro, I am cooked. I am old now. I'm falling apart. And I felt those steps. So I'm
Absolutely.
built for power, not distance.
Absolutely. That's hilarious, but I love it. It's good times, man. I'm glad you had a lot of fun. I'm glad it all went well, those kinds of things. So, and this is I should have started with this so we didn't like go from super cool and happy to sad note, but did want to give a shout out to one of our listeners. His name's Andy. Good friend, listener of the pod slash church friend for me. Lost his mom this week,
Oh,
and she's been battling dementia and stuff for a while. So, anyways, Andy, if you do listen to this, man, I'm still thinking about you, even while I'm sitting up on a Halloween night with all my kids in a sugar coma and doing a late night podcast with my bro, man. So we're thinking about you, and I can't wait to see you and catch up with you as you get back. So, yeah. So hard segue from that, but let's try it anyway. Let's start with recruiting. That was a major like theme for us on the podcast for a long time. And at the end of the day, really, it's just become really hard for us all with where we're at in life. You not being in Oklahoma makes it pretty tough for you to kind of help on that front end. And then Troy and I's kids just being all over. But, I do think one of the things that Oklahoma Sooner fans have been really worried about is recruiting because is this class going to hold together and all that kind of stuff.
mhm.
And I would just make a note. I would say this number one on the negative. We'll always start with negative, try to end on positive. Um, I think Fasusi's the one you got to watch, and that's not that we've heard anything through the people we do talk to or whatever that he's going. I'm just thinking of the guys that have been committed. I feel like that would be the guy that I would target as maybe the offensive lineman that doesn't stick around, right? We'll see what happens with like an Emmett Jones. And I think if he leaves, you'll have to see what happens with some of the wide receivers. But remember, I do think their best wide receiver in this class is an Oklahoma kid. So I think there's a good chance you hang on to him. But
Right.
Fasusi is the guy you target the most. But I'll have to say the good news that came out was Ryan Foje, who is now a fringe, 5 star, depending on what service you look at. But definitely top 10 offensive tackle in the nation. OU was his first offer when he had 0 offers and he was ranked in the 400s. He basically came out and said, I ain't going nowhere. Like, this is where
Right.
I'm going. This is my thing. And then Darius Afalava today made a pretty cool post of BV and the entire staff reaching out to him as they get ready to enter into the playoffs where he plays. And so that seemed to be a very much a vote of confidence. Even I believe his tweet itself said, awesome encouragement from the staff, love the family, something like that, so seems to be very good with him as well. So yeah, all that right now seems to be holding together. I think your defensive recruits will hold together. I think there's been a product on the field this year that you can still very much sell to a defensive recruit. So I think that's kind
Right.
of the update on that end, and we'll try to do a little bit better checking in on those things. But I think that's one thing to hit for sure. But we have not talked in a minute, especially with all your birthday stuff going on. So let's recap, shall we? What went down in Oxford, Mississippi? Just Jared, what were kind of your biggest takeaways from this game? Like, I mean, again, I don't think we went in this game thinking we were going to win, so that wasn't a huge surprise. But how did you feel coming out of that game?
I guess I'm gonna start with the offensive side of the ball. Pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people are gonna try to say like it did start to fall apart. Like Ole Miss definitely figured some stuff out in the second half
Mm-hmm.
to slow them down a lot. And they just started really coming after. I mean, the offensive line started to play that started to slip, but I will give them credit for half football they played pretty well as far as especially compared to what we've seen. I don't even
Right.
know. I think that was maybe like as far as like a an FBS opponent. I think maybe that may be the most yards that they put up this season. I haven't looked at the stat line throughout the year, but it was up there, right?
Right.
Um,
One
but
definitely the most impressive rushing game, yardage wise, and everything that they've had. If you take all the sacks out, actual run play kind of stuff, it was by
it,
far their best.
and this is like the weird thing to me. So, like, because we talked about this, I remember talking to you on the phone a little bit right after the game, on Saturday, and um, Ole Miss has a very strong interior defensive line. We talked about that. I think they're
Hmm.
probably the first or second best that we'll face all season, and they're probably top five in the country as far as interior defensive line. And somehow OU, even when they ran between the tackles, was having success. I mean, some of the
Hmm.
biggest runs, I think one of the ones that Barnes maybe broke off for like 20 something yards, which was one of the longest runs of the year, was right up the middle.
Yeah.
So that was a little interesting. So I don't know why that suddenly shifted. Jackson Arnold looked really good.
Yeah.
I thought that I'd say he looked really good. I wouldn't say he looked great. I wouldn't say he looked phenomenal, but he looked good. He looked like he is a guy that can win you games, even
Mhm.
this year. Um, I mean, given how tough our schedule is, but um, I do think that he looked good. I think those sorts of things are good. I also just like we talked about it, I was like there was a cohesive game plan. Um, Things felt a little bit more orchestrated. There felt like there was a they at least were for like for half of football they were getting a rhythm going. They were like you said they were doing the things that worked and they weren't shooting themselves in the foot. The execution was better. It just felt like a better like it felt like a more well coached offense. Now I don't think that Joe John Finley should be the obviously the long term answer at OC. Um, but it just felt like I don't know how like we were all texting about it and I said was Seth Luttrell more of a problem than we thought based on what we just saw.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be that guy, but it's like I don't know how you watch that game and go in a week. We'll see as the season goes on, but in a week, the team has looked like it had a pulse on offense, which is
Hmm.
not for what 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just confusing. But anyway, so that's I guess it's kind of my positive is that there's a lot of good things. I think Seth Luttrell was a bigger problem than we thought. I think the offensive line does need to start figuring some things out, though. As much as they played well for about a half of football, When Sexton went down, it did go downhill, but it just felt like they kind of just started making also dumb errors. And like we kind of talked about the first half, they were communicating. You could see them. That's my guy. That's my guy. That's the mic. Like they were calling it all out. And you could just tell, like it looked like old school Bill Beatembo offensive line communication like you would
Mm-hmm.
see before. And then I kind of felt like they were still communicating, but it didn't feel quite like just watching how their body language and like their hand gesture stuff. It kind of felt like they weren't as into that in the second half for whatever reason. Um, and so that kind of the offensive line definitely declined. Um, and I think the other big thing that people are going to just have to come to terms with is because I've seen people that have, I guess this is kind of a negative and a positive. I've seen people be like, well, our offensive talent is just so terrible. Like our offensive talent is just so bad that we can't win games just because of the talent level disparity between us and other SEC teams, right? Um, Honestly though, if you watch that game again, I go, if you have some of those receivers not injured,
Yeah.
I think you have a very good real chance of winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you could just tell that there's just guys that aren't ready yet. There's guys out there. I mean, you're running your sixth and seventh string guys out on the field right now.
Right.
I mean, guys that are never intended to see the field, that never
Right.
expected to see the field, they're having to start now.
Yep.
Um, and so, I think that that's some people have to realize, and that's a huge aspect of the game. That's a huge part of this offense. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think if you can get some of those guys next year, then we'll see. But anyway, I thought the offense was good. So that's my offense thoughts. You give me your offense. I don't want to ramble on for 20 minutes by myself.
Yeah.
So you give me your offensive good and bad.
No, I thought Jackson stepped in and did a good job. And um you have to admit the offensive line looked better. And I would say I do walk away from that game. For me, kind of the guy that was a little bit definitely not defending Seth Luttrell, but trying to kind of give him a little more benefit of the doubt. It definitely didn't help that cause at all, right? With some of the way that some of the stuff went. Um, so you could definitely see that that change needed to be made. And I think it became very clear on Saturday that that was a bad hire. Now, I say that. I do also believe we need to see one more week because I do believe there's a reality to when you actually have to look another man in the face and know that he is um, having to move his family, change his life, and losing his job. I think all of a sudden the kind of, you know, screwing around and not really taking things seriously changes for a minute, right? But we're also a generation that forgets very quickly. So, especially when you're in your 20s and your teens. So we'll see if that continues. But it appeared that way. Again, I thought Jackson played well. Now, the offensive line. I think if you give a truly critical view of that game, did they play better? Yes, they did. Run blocking. And the pass sets, it it's still very iffy even in the first half. But they were able to get Jackson some quick balls, but that he could get out of his hand quick and get to guys and let them go make plays. Now, he also ran for his life on a lot. I mean, like the touchdown throw to take the lead, that's Jackson Arnold all day long. I mean, that has nothing to do with the O line. It honestly didn't have anything to do with the receivers, other than it was a broken play, and your walk on apparently is the only guy that knows how to flush towards the quarterback and got himself open, right? So I still think the offensive line is very much an issue. And I mean, a case in point, your last 11 plays of the game, six of those plays are sacks. Six of the last 11 plays. I know it's a bad offensive line. That's worse than bad. Even though they know you're throwing the ball, that's crazy, right? I agree with you about the wide receivers. Um, it would be interesting to know what a Farouk and a Dion Burks in there with Brennan Thompson would look like. Just those two guys. Just having those two guys would make a big difference. Like a case in point about the talent. Well, I think we talked about this last week on the pod. I can't remember, but do you know who is the number two person at wide receiver for snaps?
You told me this. I don't remember who it was though.
Reagan's Zion
Yeah.
Reagan's. Before the Ole Miss game, he had over 290 plays on offense. He also played the Ole Miss game, and I have not seen a snap count for that game within it. I'm going to guess he played a good 30, 40 plays, right, of the offensive plays because he was out there a lot. So let's just go ahead and say he has 320 snaps on the field. Do you want to know how many receptions he has?
Two.
Five. Jacob Johnson, or Jacob Jordan, the walk on, has about 80 snaps under his belt right now and has what, 10, 11 catches on the season. That's a talent issue. That's a talent issue. And again, it makes me just with the offense, even with Seth gone, it brings me to a lot of freaking questions. What, like, I don't think Zion Kearney is as fast as Zion Reagan's. I also don't think I've seen Zion Reagan's run past anybody.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me that after a 330 snap count, only only catching five. We've also seen Raggins drop two or three balls, right, since he's been out there on the field. And we've also every ball he's caught, he's never been open. Like, I mean, when I say that, wide open, right? Like he's never caught a ball that you're like, "Ooh, there's lots of space for him to work with." He is always blanketed. But Zion Kearney can't see the field for 30, 40 snaps a game. Right? Jacquez Petaway can't see the field for 30, 40 snaps a game. Ivan Carrion can't see the field for 30. Major Melson can't see the field for 30, 45 snaps a game. Like, what are we doing? Like, the experiment's over. He can't get open. So, what are you going to
Well,
do?
it's the same thing about that. Like, I feel like people, regardless of his speed, because everybody like, and I don't get me wrong, I get that you can't coach speed and all those other,
But have you seen
whatever.
it on the field? Like, have you seen Raggins on the field just
But
blow
but
by
but my
anybody?
but my point is also that it doesn't matter whenever your quarterback can't wait for you to be 20 yards down the field because he's
Mm-hmm.
getting sacked for one. And it also doesn't even matter. Like people don't understand that it still matters to understand route running and running into empty space,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how fast you are.
Right.
If Ole Miss is playing two deep safeties, it doesn't really matter. If you don't know how to run to space, it doesn't really matter how fast you are.
Right.
Because by the time you do run past the safety, the play's been over for 10 seconds. I mean, so I understand speed, but until he figures out how to run to space, I mean, it's dumb to say it like that, but that's what it is. That's what
Yeah.
route running is. It's running to empty space and being open, and he just doesn't do that.
Yeah. And the sad part about this game, by the way, and again, we do not have access to the all 22 footage. I wish we did. So all we can see is whatever the camera lets us see on a Saturday. Now, did I see Brandon Thompson open a couple times? Yeah, but apparently, according to Gabe and Teddy, Brennan Thompson was open like all day. And according to Gabe and especially Teddy, Teddy jumped on it quick. He's like, dude, he blew right past their corners five, six, seven times on go balls. And like Jackson just never looked that way. Now, I don't know what's determining that or why, but I mean, Gabe basically said there was no reason to go in at halftime and not go over to Jackson and go, dude, you need to look towards Brendan Thompson. He is cooking today. And so if there's a chance that the coverage is leaned in a way where he can get open, you need to glance his direction. And it just felt like he never did. Um,
But
Bow-
I mean,
I was
sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead. No. You're
I,
good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick. I think this goes back to what we are talking about with Seth Luttrell and like I've been saying for a long time now. It was just felt like they don't know football.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about, I think it was a lot last season, even like some of this season, about how, like, especially last season, it was like on the defensive side of ball, you had guys that were football smart. Like Danny Stutzman, while he is athletic,
Mm-hmm.
he's not the most athletic linebacker in all of college football.
Right.
He's just that good because he knows football. He knows where to be. He knows his assignment. He knows how to execute. And he's just a well coached player. you could look at the other side of the ball this year, and that's what you don't see. Like that's where I'm like, it doesn't feel like Michael Hawkins knows how to read a defense. It doesn't feel like Jackson Arnold knows how to read defense. Like Michael Hawkins, you could write off as he's a true freshman.
Right.
Jackson Arnold, even though he's a young guy with not many starts under his belt still, like you've been in college long enough that you should be able to diagnose simple defenses. Like they're not, you're playing teams that still aren't throwing something that exotic at you, and it feels like they're deer in the headlights sometimes. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping that's something that's course corrects. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Bauer Sharp is where you're at.
Yeah, and I mean, to you kind of said earlier, the second half, it felt like Ole Miss figured some things out. I Early in the second half, I disagree. I mean, the first drive out the gate, you get to what you should be at like 3rd and 2, but you get a holding penalty, I believe, or no, a false start penalty, whatever it was, a penalty on Bauer Sharp that backs you up to 3rd and 9, right? And I don't remember who that ball. There was a pass on 3rd down. So I don't remember if it was 3rd and 9. They just couldn't get it because of the penalty. But that kind of stalled the drive more so than Ole Miss did, right? The second drive, same thing. You get to 3rd and 3. You're right there. Bauer Sharp is wide open and he drops the ball. So like on consecutive drives, he kills the drive. Hester drops a ball in the second half. That's a conversion. Now, does that mean they're going to go score? No. But what I'm getting at is none of those plays were, oh God, their defensive line just made an adjustment and we weren't getting smothered in the third quarter. Like we weren't. We were killing ourselves like throughout that drive. I just had the play by play pulled up and I think I forgot to leave it open for us here. Let me pull this up again. But I know that they punted again off the penalty coming right out in the second half. Um, yeah, there it is. So we go get to 3rd and 4. A penalty backs us up to 3rd and 9. Pass incomplete. I think that was one we just missed where we were trying to squeeze one in. Ole Miss goes down, scores a touchdown. We get the ball back. We get to 3rd and 3. Bauer Sharp with a drop. We punt. Ole Miss scores a touchdown. Next drive, we get a first down on a Javante Barnes run. Taylor Tatum has a run. Javante Barnes with a rush up the middle, but we have a penalty of holding, puts us at 2nd and 18. And then Jackson Arnold gets a pass complete to Sharp, but it's like a swing pass kind of a thing. That stupid tight end screen type thing they want to do. They blow it up. We lose 8 more yards. It's 3rd and 26. There's no play to get out of that. And again, you can kind of say that's on them, but the holding call is really what puts you in that position. Then Ole Miss goes to get a field goal. And then the next drive, Jackson Arnold pass complete to Jake Roberts for 8 yards, 2nd and 2. Um, and then we throw a pass to Jacob Jordan again on a bubble, loss of 3 yards. So now we're 3rd and 5. Jackson Arnold has to run, which I don't remember what kind of run that was, but he only gets 2 yards. You end up punting. I mean, none of that early on is overly Ole Miss just smothering us, right? It's
Right.
it's way more penalties, drop balls, missing a blocking assignment on the edge. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just self-inflicted stuff, man. Again in the second half. So yeah, I mean, all I say, offense looked much better. Thought they really improved. The second half for the defense is what was pretty rough. Um, like I mean, I'm reading that off there. Touchdown, touchdown, field goal. I mean, that's kind of the game, right? Like right there is that's and then it kind of leveled out, but I mean, look, if I'm a head coach, offensive coordinator, and you get a 2 score lead on this team, I'm not trying to put my foot down. I'm just trying to get out with a win, right? So that's kind of my thoughts defensively. How did you feel about it?
Uh, yeah. So defensively, I mean, I thought we talked about this during the game. I think the defensive line may have played one of their best games all year.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to give it to them. A lot of those guys have had a lot of motor. And honest to God, like don't get me wrong, this doesn't change the outcome of the game. Like some of those guys, I can't even name every. I mean, there's multiple guys I could name on this defensive line that would have had multiple sacks if they got hold or if they weren't getting held. And I mean, there was one play that I remember that ended up being like a 20 or 30 yard play for Ole
Yes.
Miss. And I may have been R. Mason Thomas. I can't remember who it was, but literally got tackled as he's about to just knock the crap out of Jackson Dart right in front of the ref and doesn't get a flag.
Yeah.
Um, and then it turns into a big play. And it's like some of those things that's just that was a little frustrating. But I mean, again, I don't know that it changes the outcome of the game, especially how Ole Miss got rolling in the second half.
Right.
Um, but the defensive line played good. I thought the linebackers played good. I thought Danny had a couple of like one of my concerns with Danny and after me, I don't get me wrong, Danny's still one of the best linebackers in college football.
100%.
But it does feel like to me like he kind of vanishes for I'd say he vanishes for like a quarter of the game, or like you know what I mean? Like something that maybe not
Hmm.
a quarter, but there's like a section of the game that he's just not executing to that level, and I don't know what that's about, but it just kind of felt like that at least for the last 3 or 4 games for me personally. But overall he played really well. Linebackers played well. Um, I know that the secondary is I okay, here's somebody that I know people are really high on. I still love him to death, and he still has moments, but I feel like he's getting to that real he kind of does this. He's kind of very up
Hmm.
and very down, and that's Billy Bowman.
Yeah.
I feel like Billy Bowman was like he had some really good moments in the game, and then you had games where you're like parts of that game where you're like, you that was a foolish mistake. What are we doing?
Yeah.
So again, but that's kind of I guess sort of my a little bit of my negative. But like I said, the defense again elite. I mean, I know that Ole Miss and people are gonna say, well, like Ole Miss just was able to drive up and down the field in the second half. Um, or to some extent, like they had what like you said 3 drives in a row or something of touchdowns.
Touchdown,
Um,
touchdown, field goal. So they went
yeah,
17 points in the second half.
yeah. So that's not great. But I'm like, you're also going against one of the greatest offensive minds in college football. You're going against a very talented offense, whether
Hmm.
people want to admit that or not. Jackson Dart is a dude. Um, and they also I don't remember what the stats came out to, but I know in the first half they limited Ole Miss like the least amount of yards by a large margin
Yeah.
that Ole Miss had like all season.
Right.
Um, and Ole Miss, it's not like Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. Um, so yeah, the defense, it's like it's really hard. I mean, like I said, I'm almost nitpicking here because like even like I said,
Yeah.
even Billy Bowman, it's like I wouldn't say Billy Bowman had a bad game. I'm just saying for him being at the level he
Hmm.
is, how many years has he's been, you expect him not to make those mistakes. And I don't know what that's about, but
Yeah.
hopefully he kind of corrects that. But I mean, the one thing that I will give this defense, the other thing that I would say there's a lot to look forward to. I mean, Kip Lewis continues to
Yeah.
look like a dude. I mean, Kip Lewis looks better and better and
Yeah.
better.
Agreed.
Um, honestly, I'll say it, and I know that I was one of the ones that bought Kip Lewis stock from the get go, but this isn't the reason. I think like by next season, I think he's as good as Danny Stutzman is right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Kobe McKenzie's looked good, and like I mean, there's guys on this defense that are gonna be here next year and maybe
Yeah.
beyond that have showed they're ballers.
Yeah. Jaden
Um,
Jackson.
Jaden Jackson, a true freaking freshman,
Yeah.
um, who just is doing it. I mean, David Stone has had flashes.
Grayson Halton has just come on more and more and more every week. I mean, and he'll be back next year. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So, I mean that's my take on that. I mean, I think they're just like our defense is elite and it has the potential to be elite next year.
Yep.
Um, so we'll see. I think if I had to pick the strongest, I'll do this. The strongest group of the field on the field to me for defensive line. I'm just
Yep.
going to give the whole defensive line a gold star or whatever. The weakest was the secondary, probably the safeties. But I mean, it's hard to say. But
Yeah.
again, I'm almost nitpicking a little bit.
Yeah,
So
I would say corners. I thought the corners had a really rough day. They gave up a bunch of big ones. I don't know if you saw the Josh McCuistion tweet where you can see that Des Malone obviously either didn't know what defense he was supposed to be running, communicated something wrong, got a signal wrong. I mean, whatever. But I mean, instantly, as soon as his technique of squaring up on the receiver came, Jay Valai just starts losing his mind on the sideline and immediately they throw the ball right over the top of his head for a big gain because he was supposed to have the deep coverage on that, and he played it as though he had a safety over the top of him, and he did not, So, I mean, you got to clean those things up for sure, but they had a rough day. But I agree, the D line played really well. I think my overall biggest nitpick, and it's because it's something that's been a problem since BV's been back, and that is the zone drops of the linebackers. I mean, the play that kept killing us was the tight end. I mean, the tight end just getting open over and over, especially in the second half. That little middle zone of the field, dude. That tight end was there all day to get them converting on third downs. And it's just like, guys, like, you have to figure out where they are when you're dropping. It's just kind of, I don't know if they get so focused on the run. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell when you're watching. I don't know if they get too caught up in where they're supposed, like, kind of which area of the zone they're supposed to be. But the concept is going to be to ensure the run's not there, and then as you drop, you got to find where guys are going and put yourself in your zone associated in a way that you can cover the space right, if that makes sense, right? So if I've
Right.
got a guy that's hitting the curl, kind of on the edge of my zone here, but I've got a guy coming in and behind, I got to go back and towards the middle because I got to cover that guy first. And then if he throws this guy, I can rally and get to that, right? But it feels like sometimes we see this guy hit and we either associate to him and we lose all sight of everybody behind us or we're not communicating they're coming in our zone. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Again, some plays it feels like they're just sold out to the run and they don't get back in time. Or when they do drop, they only drop like 5 yards, and it's that 8 to 10, 12 yard kind of route that's been killing us all year. And that's been a problem for 3 years since BV's been here, is the linebacker drop. So that has to get better. But again, also the offense went three and out and three and out and four and out. Like, again, the defense can only hold for so long, right? And so I would be very interested to know how that second half goes if we could at least convert a couple first downs, change field position, give the defense some sense that we still have it roll in the second half. And who knows if you go get a field goal or a touchdown, it just changes the whole momentum in that whole stadium than what it would the other way. And so overall, defense played. Uh, I think this is the first game that we can say that the defense played well enough to win, but they didn't play great. But they played good enough to win that football game. And then the offense just kind of disappeared in the second half. So that's how I feel about it. So we're done with that one. We're moving on. Big game this week. Huge, huge game. You can't get this
I
one. All bowl game hopes are lost. So
Yeah, I mean, it's Maine, let's be honest, but I also think that they need to treat this game like they're playing Alabama.
yeah,
I
yeah, they
mean,
do.
and I don't say that for some hyper, but it's like they need to start figuring crap out.
Yeah, right.
On both offense and defense, like you said, those things on defense, like you're going to the meat of your schedule.
Yep.
As much as your schedule's already been a gauntlet, you're going into the teeth of it now. You're
Yeah.
playing Alabama, you're going to be playing LSU, you're going to be playing a lot of tough teams,
Missouri. Yep.
and that it's not getting any easier. Use this game where it's like I like to me, if I'm BV, I'm saying we're playing the starters the whole game.
Mm.
Like, like whoever we got out there. I mean, maybe not quite that, but it's like we're playing them for a long time, and we're making sure that they're executing. Where we're going to have 400 yards of offense, and we're going to only allow 100 yards of offense for them. Like whatever, whatever goal you have, achieve that
Right.
because I know Maine is not going to be it should not be a gauntlet of a test, but um like I said, people, I think that's one thing that frustrates me. This is one of those games that I understand that it shouldn't be good in the sense of it's not going to be a you know 1 point game at the end, hopefully. um,
Right.
but they have to treat it like it's going to be that. Like this is the game that people need to watch because this is the tune-up game.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the good SEC. Go look at the Nick Saban Alabama teams. Go look at all the great teams in the SEC. when they play teams like this, they don't come out and say, "Oh, we're going to win 42. We're going to get by 42 points, and then we're going to, let them coast up to get 20 points." And no, they slaughter them.
Yeah.
And they execute. I mean, this is them turning those dials and getting things lined up. So,
Yep.
it is what it is, and I think that we have to treat it like that. So I am excited for it. I did look it up. Maine is 4-4 in their schedule, but they've got an interesting schedule where they've beaten some of the ranked teams in the FCS. So I don't know. I think they're, as far as an FCS opponent, they're probably pretty decent. I don't think that they're obviously great. They definitely shouldn't be anywhere near the level that OU is, but yeah, I mean that is what it is. So
Yeah.
I'm actually just excited, maybe to have a win, because like you said, if we don't win this game, I mean that's what the sad part is where OU
Oh,
is right now. You got to win this game, and then you got to pull a shocker off against somebody else.
BV's gone if they lose this game. Let's just be clear.
Yeah, yeah,
I
and I,
don't.
and I, I and I don't see that happening. To
No.
be clear.
No, I mean I don't either, but yeah, that and that's what's going to be interesting, right? Because here we are, all right, as people watching this team saying this offense is literally historically awful for OU. Historically awful. And we're talking about this game still in the sense of like, oh, they're going to win by 4 touchdowns. Well, how confident are we? I mean, I just got done going through a second half where it's not that Mississippi was stopping us, it's us stopping us, right? Like it's us getting a holding penalty. It's us, you know, dropping a ball on third down. It's us not knowing our pass route assignment. It's us not seeing a guy streaking wide open for a touchdown and throwing to the short for 3 yards instead of a touchdown that's there, right? Like, I mean,
Hmm.
these are all self inflicted things. So I love what you said of BV's attitude towards this game with the team when he's in front of them has got to be, guys, you don't get to say we should win this game. You're not there. You're not that good. Your margin of error is slim, including against Maine at this point. Like it just absolutely is. And so they're going to have to take that mindset. Now, behind closed doors, I think the coaches have to look at this game as a opportunity to see if any of their young players have developed. Period. The and I think they need to do what they were doing in non-conference, which was I don't know if you remember like second series of the game to start the year against Temple. I get it, Temple, but even Houston when everybody thought Houston was going to be a decent opponent, like Kobe McKenzie and Lewis Carter, heck Tennessee, Lewis Carter was in that game early given reps. You got to go back to that in this game. And I know for a fact he mentioned it in his coach's show. Boganowski, Powers, Jaden Hart. I think those guys are going to play a lot in this game, and I think we need them to. Um, Now, there's also a lot of people all fired out up about Isaiah Autry because BV mentioned that he's elevating him from the practice squad, and he's coming. He's going to be coming in the second half. Maybe the fourth quarter if this game goes the way it's going to. People read into this crap way too much, right? We've EPL has been the backup guard all season. He's been listed as the backup guard on the right side all season, and he's got what, like 20 snaps? And almost all of that was against Temple. So Isaiah Autry coming off the practice squad has nothing to do with he's flashing, we got to get him on the field. It's Jake Taylor is down injured. Jacob Sexton is down injured. We were already injured this guy. We were already injured that. We got to have a body. We got to have a body that if another person goes down that we can slot him in there. I mean, look, it's going to be Tarquin and it's going to be Howland and Spencer Brown until this game's out of hand, and then you're going to see Autry. But you got to play him if he's healthy. You got to play EPL if he's healthy early. David Stone has to play a lot in this game. PJ needs to play a lot in this game. Jaden Hardy needs to play a lot in this game. Um, you got to play Jeremiah Newcomb, who is playing really well to start off the year. Has got to play a lot in this game. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's got to be your mindset. Like you said, that you don't have the room to screw around, but the reason that you've got to just ingrain that into them is so that they play well enough to get all those backups on the field and give them an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to mix it up some, I think, and they're gonna have to get some guys like doing those sorts of reps too, just gets guys ready when you throw them into the bigger scenarios, or get close to ready as you can. Um, if you need, I mean, you're seeing that on, like you said, with the receiving core right now, a little bit. Like you have guys that have been thrown in that have had no experience.
Right.
And that shows. JJ Hester was not meant to see the field, but he's seeing the field.
Yeah.
Things like that. So yeah, I don't disagree. And I mean, like I said, to me, the biggest thing is I want to see, for one, if I will lose my mind as much as I already lost my mind about the Temple thing, but if I don't see this offensive line, if they, for one, if they stop communicating, I'm really going to lose it. But two, if they stop getting to where that they can push somebody off the ball,
Yeah.
consistently against a team like Maine, I'm like, dude, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Right. Right.
Oh, and like I said, I think that there's going to be some things to really watch in this game, so I'm excited. So, um, it's going to be, I don't know. I don't know what to expect for um score even. I guess you know what? I'll go and give my score prediction. I think this game's going to be 45-6.
I have 34-7.
34-7. Okay.
I just
45.
I I I want to believe they're going to do what your score is. I just haven't seen it. I have not seen this offense execute at that level all season long. And so I get that it's that,
Here's
but like even against Temple, they did not move bodies. Now, granted, if they will run block like they did last week, they should be able to run for 300 yards on Maine and get all the points they need that way to get your score. But I've seen it once. I've
yeah,
seen it once all year.
let me ask you this. Because we both agree, by the way, gold star to Javante Barnes. The dude ran
Yeah.
his butt off
Yes, he
last
did.
game.
Played a great game. Absolutely.
Um, and really pushed himself. You can see some plays where he was just gassed and he was still going at it. Javante Barnes, though, we would say that like for him, he's had a good season considering all things considered,
Oh
right?
yeah. I think he's done what I mean, are there explosive plays he's left on the field? Yes. Has
But
he been?
he's been a lot of times he's been making something out of nothing. I think is the point that I'm
Yes.
trying to make.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Javante Barnes, how many yards per carry do you think he averages right now?
Three, hmm, 3.3.
3.6.
Okay.
Do you know what that's ranked in FBS?
Oh gosh. Well, it's way down there.
There's like 130 something, was 132, I think,
Well, there's
FBS teams.
132 teams, and then who God knows how many guys have run the ball. Um, 101st probably.
228th.
Yeah.
Uh, Averaging 46 8-point yards a game, 374 yards on the season. He does have two rushing touchdowns. So like a little bit but I mean, also there was such a running back by committee at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season. And I think he's kind of asserted himself as the number one guy for now.
Hmm.
So that is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I do expect him to have a big game. Um, I mean, I just want that. Like I said, I got to give the guy a gold star. But I mean, like I said, I do think that that's going to be. I guess like let me put it this way. I think if there's a hope for OU to salvage some of the season, the season's a wash. No OU fans looking at the season
Right.
going, it's going to be a success story. If you want to have a glimmer of hope and you want to be able to have something that shows that you can really hold this class together and give some like benefit to the future, you have to hope that what I'm saying is true. And my theory is that it was just a very poorly coached unit, and now they're finally getting good coaching somehow
Right.
on the offensive side of the ball. And so they're just going to get from now on, they're going to get better and better every week because it's like they're like there's been, it's like they're going through fall camp again, basically.
Yeah.
And so if they do that, they should get better every week. So if you go out there and you see them somehow put up 45 points, even against Maine, or you see them put up, 400 yards of offense or whatever, you can be like, hey, I know it's Maine, but that's something.
That would be progress. I mean, that's the thing. Like, somebody was saying the other day, we're not going to learn anything in this game. I mean, I'm sorry. This team's at a point right now, there's a lot we can learn in this game. Like,
Exactly.
we need to see if the offense can put together consistently, like they did it against Ole Miss. Again, the first half, they put what, like a 11 play, 80-yard drive, something like that together at one point, or 76 yards, something along those lines, right? Like, but that's like the only one. Like, that's the only like drive.
Well,
Uh,
here's and like that's the thing is like, the thing you can learn is just execution.
right. Right.
Like
Assignment
the
sound, physical, fast.
and like that's the thing is it's like you want to see guys get open. You want Jackson to be able to read that and see and get them and throw the ball to them open. But like I said, yeah, it comes down to I don't want to see the offensive line be so confused and discombobulated that's the interior defensive lineman literally just walks between the center and the guard and goes straight for the quarterback.
Right.
Um, that should never happen. I mean, like that's the cardinal sin of being
Yes.
blocking on the offensive line, whether you're an offensive lineman or a tight end or whatever, is you put your hands on somebody.
Yeah.
Like nobody gets through that line without getting touched. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like that's happened multiple times this season, several times this season, even.
Yeah.
To see those things start to get cleaned up. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a game that OU fans should be tuning in to watch. So
100%. So, well, let's get off of the not so fun sports side of things with the Oklahoma Sooners. And let's talk some Thunder basketball, shall we? Don't know you. I think you were out last night, so
yeah,
you probably did not get
I
to see
haven't.
the.
I've seen. I've only got to. Dude, I've been busy for since what Saturday, Sunday, really Saturday, sort of Sunday. Yeah. So I've seen highlights, which Chet has been lighting up my highlight feed.
Yes, Chet is playing out of his mind. He is he has taken a massive step forward this season. His offensive game is aggressive. It is decisive. I know he started the season off 0 for 10 from 3-point range. And then now I believe in the last two games he is 6 for 8 from 3-point range. So he started to kind of find that shot. But even so, he's been facilitating, um, all those kinds of things. And so he has really started out the year extremely, extremely hot, which is wild. Um, the defense, bro, like, wow. So you ready for this? There
Mhm.
is a before the game last night. I didn't get a chance to look at it afterwards. And really, kudos to the Down to Dunk podcast is where I got this stat from. But before the game last night, um, there is an NBA stat called win share, right? In other words, when my defender is guarding somebody, what is their win rate against that person in a one-on-one defensive scenario? Do you want to guess how many players from the Thunder were in the top 10 of the entire NBA?
3,
Five.
5. The half the list is Oklahoma City players.
And the top three are all Oklahoma City Thunder players.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I mean, even
five.
a small sample size, that's still insane.
And by the way, here's another little fun fact for you. You will never guess who is the second highest. Shea, by the way, was number one. MVP. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
Number two, can you guess who it was?
it's gotta be somebody like it's not Chet, I assume. I have no idea.
Cason Wallace.
Okay.
Cason Wallace, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, put the absolute gloves on Trey Young the other night as well. I mean, just all over him. So, um, yeah, they're the also through their first three games, the team that led the NBA in 3-point percentage last year is dead last this season, and they are 3-0 against the Denver Nuggets, against the Hawks, against the Spurs. I mean, like, that's insane, bro. That's insane. They haven't even found their offensive rhythm. And the Bulls, that's who I forgot. The Bulls. They have not even found their offensive rhythm at all. Like literally against the Spurs, that was the first night Dort was hitting his threes, and it was the second night that Chet was hitting his three. Shea, by the way, let's just look at this. They beat the Spurs by 12 points last night, and they put in all their backups in the fourth quarter. So it was a bigger lead than that, right? They put all their backups in. Come on, internet. You can do it. Shea had one of his worst nights ever, I think, as a Thunder player. It was actually not an efficient night at all. I believe he was 2 of 10 from the 3-point line against the Spurs.
Dang.
And you still win that game going away. And you hold Wemby to 6 points. They held Wemby to 6 points in the game. Here we go. Shea last night scored 18 points. 18. The guy that scored 30 like 60 times last year scored 18. You want to hear this? He was 7 of 20 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3-point range. 2 of 10. And you win that game going away. Chet Holmgren, 19. Jalen Williams, 12. Shea, 18. Dort, 20. Cason Wallace, 9 points. Jang, by the way. Can we just talk about my man, Usman Jang? All right? Is he an MVP candidate? Nope. Is he a guy that's going to start on this team? Nope. But you know what? He's found a role, and it's not even a role he was expected to play coming this season, and he looks comfortable. And then you add on to it AJ Mitchell, a two-way contract player, has played like 13 minutes a night. And last night, I believe he scored like 12 points and looks good doing it. Dude, this team is nasty, bro. This team is nasty. So, I don't know what else you've seen highlight wise or gotten to see or what questions you have, but I mean, I don't think I've ever been higher on a team. And here's the deal, they still haven't actually played well.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's crazy. Defensively, they are on pace to be a historic defense. But from a offense and defense coming together, complementary basketball, if you will, it ain't great. I mean, there's not been anything extraordinary about it at all. They got out rebounded by 13 last night. Let's see, against the Hawks. Let's give you some stats here. Against the Hawks, they ended up being really good offensively through three quarters. They were not great. They shot 75% from the free throw line. They did end up shooting 40% from 3 points. So that's actually really good. They were out rebounded by the Hawks. They were even in assists, but turnovers, man, 13 steals. And that was the other thing against the Spurs. They had 18 steals in the game. Steals, not turnovers, steals. Like that's a wild number. And then 13 the game before that. Uh, The Hawks had 20 total turnovers. The Spurs had, it's going to be an absurd number, 22 total turnovers. The Bulls had 26 total turnovers for the Bulls. And then the Nuggets, when they played the Nuggets, had 16 total turnovers. That was their worst defensive night of the year. I mean, dude, no iHeart. No J Will, no K Rich, even on this team right now. And by the
I
way, Caruso hasn't even started a game.
Yeah, and I mean the other like, can we also just quickly like respect all that, but I also am loving that the Chet Wimby rivalry has boiled up so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's a fun time to be a Thunder fan is what I'm saying.
yes. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, bro, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Um it's unreal what they've assembled here. I mean, it really, really is. I think you have legitimately four wing defenders on this team that are, I mean, according to the numbers right now, are top 10 defenders in the league.
Right.
And so it is just suffocating to try and get anything on this team. And what's really scary is if they can really get their offense going and flowing the way they want it to, look out. Like, I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, again, it's not like Shea was a non factor last night, but 18 points from your MVP candidate's not a great night.
Yeah.
And you still win by double digits. 2 of 10 from 3 point range, still win by double digits, right? Like, Dort scored more points than Shea did last night. I mean that just tells you kind of where this team's at. It's been crazy. Now, I don't think the Spurs are a great team, but they had Wimby and a blender. The Hawks have actually played really well so far this year. They've actually got a pretty good little squad. I think better than what people, thought it was going to be. You get like a 15, 18 point win out of that game. The Bulls are in shambles. You got to win that game. And you played the reigning MVP and Jokic, and you just dismantled them. It's If they get it all put together, it's going to be over. And like some of the scarier numbers are, I did see a stat the other night. If you put Caruso in the starting lineup, like if you take that lineup, he's played with them a little bit,
Hmm.
like as he's rotated back in, but he has not started yet a game. But when he plays with the other four starters, right? So Dort, J Dub, um, Chet, and who am I missing? It's always starting. Um, oh my gosh. It's Dort, Shea, J Dub, Chet. There it is. Dort, Shea. If you put him in with those guys in a 30, I think whatever it is, 40 minutes worth of basketball, they would only give up 76 points a game, is what the defensive rating is. If they could play the whole game, they would only give up 76 points a game. That's how good their defense is. And again, Caruso has done virtually nothing offensively and yet has a plus minus of like 12 on the season. It's it's crazy, man. You got to watch them, dude. You got to get on and watch them. You've really
I'll
got to
do.
get
I
on and
mean,
watch a game.
oh, I will. I will. Like I said, been a busy week, but I plan to. I mean, I'm excited. I mean, the Thunder is basically what we have. Yeah, it's kind of funny to me because we don't really have like outside of basketball. I mean, obviously, baseball's over. Even which our the
Oh
Astros, who we cheer
gosh.
for, were out forever
Yeah.
ago.
What a
But
game last night though. Good grief.
yeah, I actually just started watching the documentary about Boston when they won. Like, there's a whole docu series about it, about when they like how they built up and they came back and won the what was that 2005 or whatever year that was.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that I'm actually excited for that. But yeah, I mean, it's like football. It's like I guess we cheer for Baker, but Baker's just God. Talking about somebody that's just like man, like he has played Baker Mayfield. I will say this to change gears just a little bit. Baker Mayfield has had a MVP caliber season, and he may not win it because he's gonna like he's his team is just in shambles with injuries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he didn't even throw to. I mean, Sterling, I think, like
Yeah.
in respect to Sterling, but you know,
A couple of Achilles
um,
injuries and a knee injury and being up in age is Uh, Not a recipe for a great wide receiver at this point in their career.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've been enjoying it. So I don't know. I mean, it's just it's a fun time of year. It sucks that OU's not as great, but I mean the Thunder coming and like you said, I may be eating my shoes on the whole, eating crow on the whole. Um, when I said that they were going to win only 50, what did I say, 52 games or whatever. Um, they're looking good. I mean, I know that just looking at stat sheets, you're like, holy crap. So
Yeah. Only undefeated team right now in the NBA.
yeah, so I think they have a
Everybody
game tomorrow.
believe that's right. It is so late I don't remember. Oh, it would be in November. That's why. Um, oh, this is good podcasting when my internet will not pull these things up.
They have a game tomorrow at 10 p.m.
I was trying to remember it was tomorrow or the next night, but yes, I think they played
against
three and
Portland.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
they play tomorrow and Saturday.
they played the Clippers next on Saturday, right?
Yep, yep,
Which, by the way, that's a big game. The Clippers right now are 2-2 out of the playoffs, and remember, the Thunder get a pick swap with the Clippers this year. So if they continue to play down at the bottom of the West, that is good for Oklahoma City.
yeah,
Because if they do not make, there's a good chance that they could have a top five pick taking the Clippers pick, which would be insane. That you could add, and this is a good draft, that you get a top five pick to come to Oklahoma City and add on to this roster would be insane.
yeah.
Absolutely
It's
insane.
getting
So,
crowded. Is what's insane about it.
yeah, yeah, but let's go. Stack them up, Presty. I don't care. Put them all in there. Put
Yeah.
them all in there. Do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. So that side's good, man. I can't wait to get Troy on here. We've called and talked to each other like twice this week, and he just cannot stop. He is infatuated with this team, and I can't wait to get his takes on it all. So that's all I got. You got anything else?
Quick F1 news. Ferrari won the last Grand Prix. Red Bull went from the first in the standing in the constructors all the way to third in one race. It's just
Wow.
heating up. It's actually going to be pretty crazy. Like there's kind of like there's a three team race for the constructor, and there's probably like I think there's like three or four drivers, really two, but there's like four drivers that have a somewhat realistic chance to win the championship, which is crazy in F1 because like everybody, even at the beginning of this year, everybody thought like Max Verstappen's gonna just run away and win it.
Yeah.
Um, and so the fact that there's actually a battle now where it's tight is and it's getting closer every race, it's fun. It's fun. So if you don't like F1 or you haven't watched F1, go check it out. So anyway, that's my little hype. So yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Cool stuff, man. Well, again, this is Just Okay Sports Podcast. Please like and subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, all those different places. The subscriptions help us get the word out, and it gives us some credibility, if you will, as we ask people to come on the pod and be with us for different things. So please, please, please join us and help us in that way. For those of you that listen, man, we really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride with a bunch of nobodies. We are having a great time. We hope you are too. I'm Daryl, that's Jared, and we will talk to you guys later.
Night, Baker.